Um, Hello everybody, welcome to our new Friday Talks. The Schumann resonance. So I don't know if you've ever looked at that up, okay? So it's been off the charts. So, but interestingly, we're gonna start on like the wear a tinfoil hat side of things right now. So so I had essentially when I like at the beginning of the year started with a reading app that had just come from the UK or France to Canada. The guy ended up being a complete twat waffle. We all bailed. Like the entire Canadian American team was like, F you, we're out.
Yeah.
And but the girl who brought us all together put us into like a chat and she's been creating an app. Well, she's still that was the one I had asked you about. And actually off
Mhm.
the records, I will come back to that because oh my God, did I just find out some shit? Okay. But anyways, in all of her coding adventures and whatnot and creating this app, she had found out a whole bunch of information about how to build apps, what the codes look like, and all these things. So she is a big, she was actually who introduced me to the Schumann resonance. Well, the one that she was looking at, she's like, she decided to take a look at the coding. And she's like, she doesn't even know what called her to do so, but we all know divine intervention. Like, here, look at
Yes.
this. You know, you might find this
Intuition. Yeah.
interesting. You know, like here's some, nerdy stuff for you to check out now that you're like,
Yeah.
knowledgeable. And she found out that they're layering, like they're literally interfering. Like the Schumann's level looked like this, but the humans to because as a mass consciousness, if the mass consciousness looking at the Schumann resonance all believe that the Schumann is going to be up here, guess what's going to create? The Schumann is going to be up here. So they were
Mhm.
actually layering upon layering on the Schumann resonance to elevate levels when they didn't need to be elevated, which was causing a whole lot of energetic issues
Wow.
and elevations and weirdness. So she's actually given me a different link, which I shared with somebody else who also pays attention to the Schumann resonance. And she's just like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. Like, yeah, it was, she's like, oh, like I was getting information, but I didn't know what it was to interpret, like how to interpret it. And she goes, now that I put it all together, oh my goodness. And I was like, you're welcome. Like, I don't know why I felt called to share all this with you. So here you go. Here's all this information. But, but yeah, so, but like say, like we just came out of the solar eclipse and then we just passed the
Mhm.
new moon.
Yeah.
Um, all of this stuff with, buddy in the States getting assassinated. Like the energetic levels are all over the places and like
Yeah.
super dividing where we were already divided, and it was like I finally at some point I was like, like if everybody could just look at everything with love and recognize that souls have chosen their path, like
Yeah.
the most interesting part to me was like I couldn't have told you what he looked like beforehand. I had heard his name because I know I love Tom McDonald and I know him and Tom McDonald were friends and very close. I know Tom McDonald from when he lived in Canada when we were kids. Doubt he remembers me, but I remember him. And his girlfriend, actually, Nova. Met them both back before they were, a thing. Um, we were young, actually, when we met. But anyways, um, it came like I was typing in a text, and it's so interesting because Facebook seems to be where like if my mediumship's going to come through, that's where it comes through. And my brother had made a post. He's like, "A father, like, take out your political bull crap and look at this as a father was just taken from his wife and children over an opinion. We
Mhm.
are teaching our children to speak their opinions and not to be afraid. And how do you stay in that like elevated energy and vibration of not being afraid when somebody went out and spoke his mind and was taken from his wife and kids?" And I was like, well, to be fair, as a soul, he said he wanted to go out with a bang.
Mhm.
Like, and I'm like, as a human, I guess, he didn't, maybe even as a soul, maybe he didn't recognize that if he made certain choices, going out with a bang was that kind of a bang. But,
Yeah.
like, then that's what came through to me. And I was like, and I could feel like it was like he was leaning on my arm as I was typing. And I was like, all of a sudden, like, well, he wanted to go with a bang. Like,
Yeah.
he didn't know it was going to be that kind of bang. But, essentially, like, he wanted to be remembered and he wanted to go out with a bang. And, like, this was part of his soul's evolution and he didn't and in the choice of leaving at this time in his life he didn't feel that he was making the impact that he wanted to as a soul and what he came to do. So it was that this was going to get the attention and this could elevate his cause to the next level, however that looked. And so,
It's
you
really
know,
interesting
and
when it works out that way, because you often think, just like with, JFK and like so many people, where it's like people just focus on like the physical human death. And
yeah,
I'll be the first to say that I had in the past, and even sometimes now, like I read recently of because I used to do, animal rescue, and there was somebody that shared in the community, somebody that was heavily involved in animal rescue, and he literally went, one of the buildings was like on fire, and he literally went in to save, and I think he saved almost all of them, and he didn't come out, and I just started freaking bawling, and I'm like, okay, like why, right? Because the human in me is like, seriously, like why would you choose that? You were doing so good for like the souls that came here and are like, I don't want to say helpless, but I'm saying they don't have a physical voice. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
like you're helping them. And then that, like, why would you choose that? I don't get it. But, and I had to sit with that one for a while because it was, um, but oftentimes their physical death is what actually helps, because now people are like, oh my God, right now maybe they're now donating to the cause, or they're, more
Or
aware of
there's,
animal rescue, or like maybe now they're searching, oh, what did he do? I want to be like that. You know what I'm saying? And that's
instead
kind
of
of
just one soul, instead of just one soul doing it, now you get
exactly
multiple souls. Yeah,
right. Like I
yeah.
want to be like that. I want to carry on, you know what I mean? The whole carry on their message, and whatever it is. And that is probably, like I said, the most challenging part. And that's happened a lot in the animal rescue world, where people, have, plane crash or whatever it may be. And I'm like, man, come on. Like, but yeah, I get it. Something I wanted to share really quick. So this is the first time this ever happened to me. Um, so last night I had a dream, and I had a dream about a friend, and I haven't seen him for a really long time. Um, and there's other layers to my dream, but I won't get into all that. But I was sitting like in like the grass or something, and like he was calling me on my phone. And it was interesting because I looked down and I was like, okay, like I was aware that we hadn't talked for a while, and kind of like thrown off by like, why are you calling me now? And then it was like a screen, like my phone, but it kind of was coming in as like text, but it was like flashing, and it was like there was colors flashing, there was like words flashing through, and um even like and I wrote all this down in like my dream journal, but like faces, different shapes of them, and even like emotions. And it was really interesting because at first, like he was saying stuff, and then it was almost like words from like somebody else. So I don't know, like somebody he's with, girlfriend or like who, and it was like, oh, he's drinking again. And I'm like, okay, interesting. And then it would be like I said, then it was like this person face. It was almost like mine, but now that I'm in front of you, it almost seemed like it was your face, which is really interesting. And then it was flashing colors and almost like emotions, like, when you're like, different. And I was like, what in the world? And then all of a sudden it was like, well, sorry, he's gone, or something like that. And I was like, huh. But it was really, I've never had one flash with like emotions and colors and like words. It was almost like I was witnessing it more so than I was part of the conversation, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't
Oh
like
yeah.
a text, I responded and he, you know what I mean? It was like, it was kind of flashing through. Um, and I was like, okay. So obviously we have some kind of like energetic, you know, I mean, we all do, but kind of energetic tie. And so I'm like, what? Hmm. I don't know. I'll have to look it up. I mean, maybe he's no longer here. I'm not sure,
Yeah,
but
that was like my that was going to be my question, like is he alive or past? Because in some ways I feel like he shared with you what he went through or what he is going through, and maybe he's not
I'm
past
sure.
yet, but he could be passing, and his soul is
Mm,
recognizing, because you being who you are, and as like Ashley, looks at it as like that death doula style
yeah.
person, like and for me, especially in the beginning, the souls that came to me were all family, close friends,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
and
mhm.
whatnot. So like you become like that catalyst, that you know, and I would almost reach out in meditation to Archangel Azrael, who is the angel
Mhm.
of transition, and um and be like, okay, like you know, I recognize that this soul is coming to me. I recognize the emotion, the fact that they're like, oh, they're no longer here. You may have already like taken them through like all the catalysts of emotions that needed to be gone through, and then they were able to be like, okay, I can go now. And
Mm,
that kind of stuff. And just in recognizing um in that space
yeah,
what is what he needed to do, and his expression through a phone would make sense because we're all very tied to our cell
yeah,
phones. And it was interesting because I just felt like I was sitting just when I closed my eyes there, like I almost seen the phone and seen you in the grass. And that was a really interesting, it was like I had to pull myself back from that. So yeah, so I would say that you were just that you're a very big catalyst for those
mm,
that are either getting closer to pass, like that healing of the soul. Because I know like the few times where I've been reaching out to people in comas as they were healing, it was a very easy, like when their soul was ready to leave their body, it's been very easy for me to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I healed them. And then like the next day they pass. And I'm like,
yeah,
not what I expected, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
um but I never see it that in that way. I always see it within my color space, my energetic color space, how I've been taught to view. And it's slowly progressing as I break through some of like my own inner walls and protection that I put up, so I wasn't so emotionally attached to what I was able to do. It's much easier for me to see it on an energetic space than in a physical experience, whereas I'm shifting that now where I know that I'm not so emotionally attached to, and being able to, like, we had a frog die and I didn't cry and I was like, yay, I didn't cry, yay. Still sad for the frog, but I didn't. Then his buddy come in the house and I was like, I'm so sorry that you lost a friend. And I'm like, you know, try to keep you safe over the winter. I don't know how to do this. I don't know frogs, but like, you know,
Yeah.
but you're supposed to be not like, the frogs spend more time inside my house than my cat does these days. So very, very interesting.
Mm.
Um,
Well, it's
um,
keeping the connection without like absorbing the energy.
yeah,
Like, and that's the most, because I used to never, because I even talked to my husband about this the other day, because like when I would like, talk to psychics or I'd hear them or whatever, and they'd be like, oh, I'm so, like overwhelmed or like, whatever it may be. And I'm like, so I truly didn't have a belief of like that I would absorb energy. Like I didn't. I was like, oh, well, you can just choose, or whatever. But when it hit me with that guy the other day, I was like, wow, like somebody literally hit me with the 2x4 in the face. It was that energetically powerful. And I was like, and for a second, I literally thought it was mine. And I was like, where is this coming from? I don't live on that realm anymore, like at all. And then later, and it was very quickly. And
yeah.
then I was like, oh shit, that's not even mine. And then I was like, okay, cool. But it took me a minute to kind of integrate back to like, you know what I mean? And then I'm like, I often think that, because I was diagnosed with stuff when I was like 16, and I'm like, what if that shit wasn't even mine to begin with back then? But then I took on the labeling because my mom had a lot of stuff, depression and repressed emotions and all kinds of other things I won't get into from her childhood and everything. And then it was like, what if it wasn't even mine? And then the doctor's like, here's something that's not yours, take some medicine for it. And then I just was like, okay, because I didn't know any different. So then I
Yep.
literally carried that on for another 20 something years, you know what I mean? And it just, that
And
kind of
as
hit me. I
in,
was like, dang, I've since shed all
yeah,
that, but it kind
but
of
yeah,
brought,
but that's it. That's just it. And I went through that as well, right? In my,
they brought me
in my own
through.
past too. I'm very empathic, and without understanding, because that wasn't a word that was used a lot when we were young, when we were kids. I mean, we're roughly
Yeah.
the same age. So I mean, empathy and empathic and the absorbent of other people's energies, we were still very much viewed in the 80s and 90s as individuals, separate identities to
From
everybody. That
everybody. Yep.
psychics were one and few between. People with like telepathic, hi little kitten, with telepathic, um abilities were few and far between. Like all of these things were special for 1 in a million people. So if um so when that kind of stuff comes up, um you know, if you were depressed, it was yours. If you didn't feel good, it was you there, what's wrong with you? And even then, they didn't even look at what was wrong. They didn't try to get you into therapy or to talk about it or to
Yeah.
recognize what inside of you needed to shift. No, like you say, it was, here's a drug, here's a drug,
Yeah.
here's another drug,
Yeah.
here's
They
something
didn't,
harder
they
to take.
didn't do anything else. And they're reading out of a book because everybody's the same. Okay.
Yeah,
This. And I went along with it. And I mean, that was my path and all that. But
yeah.
yeah, 100%. I feel like I was going to say something else and now I'm drawing a blank. That's okay. Wasn't meant to be, I guess.
It'll pop back when it's ready.
But I just thought that was really interesting because as I kind of like, yeah, like you said, like dive into like my gifts and everything like that. And it's because I have a lot of people, you know, come to me through my dreams. And it was really interesting how it kind of played out like that. And at first, like I said, I hadn't thought of at first I thought like it might have been me, the face. But then, like I said, now I'm in front of you, and I was like, it literally with the short hair, kind of like that in the brown. I'm like, it literally, and I'm like, well, that kind of doesn't make sense, but you know, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, unless if it was just like a premonition of our conversation and I don't know.
Or
Um,
you know, and I know in the spiritual realm, I mean, just the way that we are entangled and the way like life
yeah,
is. I
yeah.
mean, there I know that my higher self goes so many more places than I even get to, get to
Okay.
actually like recognize and remember. So
Hmm.
um my dream last night was very, very interesting. Um, it was all about beards, I would like to say, because it was like a protest, but not a protest. It was like a peace rally of sorts.
Hmm.
I would say in like a Middle East style like area, but in like a white community, okay? But I wasn't me. I had big blonde hair. And when I'm talking like 80s style or 70s style where they started crimping hair. Okay, and
Yeah.
yes, when I was a kid, I used to love my hair crimped because I hate how flat my hair is. I love to have perms. Like my hair is so fine. I
Mhm.
have lots of it, but it's so flat. It drives me nuts. And I always find like I like my face better when my hair is bigger, but I have to get it permed and blah blah like whatever, right? So I stopped
Yeah.
messing with my hair for a while, let it grow out so I don't like trash my follicles and that kind of stuff. I do try to take care of it as best that I can. But I was this blonde. And I mean, and my hair was down to the middle of my back. It was short, like, and I have had a similar style in this lifetime where I shaved this half of my head and I had it for years and I loved it. And I still miss it. I might do it again. But once I can get it perm because this is still way too flat on this side. Anyways, neither here nor there. Many, many thoughts for whatever reason are just going in my head.
Right.
But anyway, so this hair was super, super long. It was crimped. It was shaved on this side, but started to grow out. So it was probably about this long on this side, crimped, rainbow colors. Huge hair, very petite, but probably about the same age as we are now. And not my face. And to describe the face, I would almost say Cindy Lauper ish. Okay.
Hmm.
And probably kind of her style as well. And this was
Yeah.
like a peace rally. And everybody had beards, including the women, but they were like fake beards. So I had like somebody handed me one, like
Mhm.
put this on, and we're on like a float type thing, and like
Yeah.
the faces were similar but different. And this one guy really stood out to me. He's like, I want you to have my beard. And he takes his beard off and it's like it's hair and it comes down, whereas mine was just a beard. So the
Yeah.
hair covered my hair other than like what was popping out the bottom. And then it was like this beard. And we were doing this peace rally for Middle Easterners and everybody had like the same type of beard. And it was a lot of fun and it was like a happy space. Yet it was very like it felt important. You know, like the beards felt important, the faces felt important, like everything about what I was doing felt very important. And I'm like, this is really interesting.
Hmm.
And yeah, and then we leave the rally and I take off my beard and we're off to go do something else, and the whole energy of like the excitement calms down, and we're like, and I'm making choices and I'm choosing something. And that part, like I just tingled up here, but I don't like past the beards and past like of what like sitting in this room to make a decision and make a choice. I couldn't tell you what decision I made. And I'm like, I'm sure
Mm,
that was important too, but it was
yeah.
really like waking up, it was like all the beards. I'm like, why beards? Like that doesn't, I don't know, but it was really,
Mhm.
really weird.
I mean, because in some ways you could almost think of a beard almost like a mask. You know what I mean? Like not
Mm,
fully,
mm.
but I mean, when you get a beard, I mean, you're literally covering half. Because think of people that either have a beard and shave it or don't have a beard and then they grow it, and it's like you almost don't even recognize the person. Do you know what I mean? Because
My
it's so full that you're like, oh my God, it's you. Um, so I almost think of, and you know, they do, well, at least in America, they used to, it'd be like no shave November or something. I don't know. My ex did this where like
Yep.
he would, you know, he grew a beard and I'm like, what the hell is happening? And also I see it as like, in addition to that, like different versions of yourself, because
Mm.
you look so different with it, right? It's like that could be a different version of you. Um, so that could be something with, and especially because it hit me when you said that the guy was like, here's mine. So could it be, you know, a layer of like it's
Being
something,
somebody else because they're like, here's mine. So
yeah,
here's
or
a
like
version
here's
of me that
my
was based
perspective, or
on,
here's my belief, or here's my,
yeah,
you know,
here's a version of me that
emotions
was
or
based
whatever,
on,
whatever. Yeah.
and then fitting in, and because it was a lot to do with like fitting in with the crowd too, because obviously with
Mhm.
my white skin, for one, I think I was like the only white person in this
Mm,
whole crowd of people, and I was the only one with like this beard. So it was like, here so you fit in, so you
mm,
don't stand out so greatly, so you're
yeah.
safe.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. If he's like, here's mine, because he
yeah,
would either tell that you wanted to fit in or like, here, make sure you're like everybody else kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah,
That makes,
yeah. And it was almost like that level, like layer of safety, like fit in so you're safe, which almost, you know, like, oh, kind of, oh my gosh, yeah, that makes sense. I've been doing a lot of that inner child like healing, and I know safety has come up a lot. And then I know it's like, you know, me and Kimmy have been talking a lot about like, oh, here's a box. Oh, here, you need to fit in this box. Oh, wait, you're escaping the box. Oh, we
mhm.
need you to fit into a new box. Like,
Yeah.
don't you know, so and then I feel like the choices after when I took off the beard was like, no, I don't want to fit in. Like, you know, like what's your choice? Like, did you feel comfortable fitting in? It was like, you know, there's maybe that comfortability of being like everybody else, but I didn't feel good until I took that beard off and was like, no, I don't, you know, I can be just of support as supportive, eh, outside of the box, if not more supportive, because now you're not silencing me to sound like everybody else.
Yeah. Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm like, I couldn't figure out the beard part. I'm like, that's an interesting way to show me.
Right? I know at first I was like, beard, beard, beard. But yeah, now it makes sense.
It does. And yeah, and you feeling like the different emotions like that's what really stood out to me with you is like not the words, but the fact that it was like sending you through the different emotions and seeing the way the emotions played out, because I feel like a lot of people who didn't find peace in the world and then find themselves at the end of their lives because they didn't find that peace, all of the emotions start to flow, and all of the good, the bad, the ugly start to really like show. And then it's like it's almost like that, you know, we almost before we die do like a prejudgment of self. It's like, oh, what did I experience, what did I feel, and put ourselves through the whole like ringer of events and emotions and things that we felt
Mm,
leading us into, you know, to almost justify how our life is ending. And
mm. That actually makes
then,
sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because my friend, and I've known him for a really long time, probably well over 20 years. And I remember feeling and also him telling me like how do I explain it? Almost like, you know how like if we were like around like Mother Teresa or like Buddha or something, right? Like, yeah, a sense of almost less than, because they're like this enlightened, like, oh, right. And you're like, I am just a humble human, kind of thing. And like I always truly felt, and like I said, he had also said this of like that I was just like, I'm choosing my own words here, but a synopsis is like, you are the light and I'm the dark. And I wish that like I was, could be that essentially, kind of, and not even in a spiritual way. Like he would, I mean, it is spiritual, but I'm saying the way in which he said it was like basically like you're all that is good and I am like
Yeah.
all that is bad. And and I think that's why our relationship had always been so distant, because it was like I'm this and you're that, and like we, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there could be a layer of that, like transition of like, because there was none of it coming from my side
Yeah.
of like, it was his side. And so yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I could feel that even now of like, yeah. And it was interesting because like he wasn't even like a drinker. So the whole like, oh, he's drinking again thing, I was like, well, that's kind of odd, because that was not like, a thing for him.
No.
It was other things,
Yeah.
but um it could just be like for me, that would signal more of like a loss of like awareness or like consciousness. So yeah, definitely interesting. um this is so cool. You trying to shut the door? Okay. I'm probably gonna get going, only because there's food sitting in front of me and I'm
Oh,
like
you
so
gotta
hungry,
eat.
and I'm like I can smell it and I'm like,
That was me earlier on one of my calls. All right. Well, thank you for joining us for our Friday talks. Hope you guys enjoyed our crazy adventures, and we
yes.
will see you next week.